In the business world, metrics are essential tools for quantifying the information that matters most. In previous videos, we explored how to write metrics using various time handling techniques in Visier formula language and introduced analytic object transformations to enhance your model. Today, we'll tackle another advanced topic in VFL: how to look up attributes or create calculated attributes based on another analytic object. By the end of this video, you'll see how these tools can unlock powerful insights and seamlessly connect data across your analytic model. In real-world, analytic objects don't exist in silos. Each object, be it employees, applicants, or requisitions, is interconnected, forming a web of relationships that reflect real-world dynamics. Being able to traverse these relationships is crucial for uncovering actionable insights. For instance, consider a common HR scenario. You're analyzing employee turnover and want to understand if top talent is leaving due to mismatched job roles. To explore this, you might look at the applicant data tied to each departing employee. Did their applicant profiles indicate a good fit initially? Since relationships between analytic objects are essential in any analysis platform, let's explore how we define them in the Visier platform. References in Visier are like foreign keys in SQL. A reference is a link, or a relationship, between two analytic objects. The relationship is directed from a source object to a target subject. As the target is always a subject, they are also sometimes called subject references. There are two types of references in Visier platform that accompany each other: forward and reverse references. Forward references create a one-to-one mappings from the source analytic object to the target subject. For example, applicant to requisition, where each applicant is tied to one requisition, or recognition to employee, where each recognition event praises one employee. Reverse references are generated automatically when a forward reference is created. It establishes one-to-many mappings from the target analytic object to the source subject. For example, a requisition to applicant reverse reference shows all applicants for a requisition. Similarly, employee to recognition highlights all recognitions an employee has received. When using references, the system matches the time of the source and target objects, ensuring accurate joins. Now that we understand what references are, let's dive into how we can leverage forward and reverse references to write powerful metrics using VFL. In VFL, looking up an attribute from a target subject via a forward reference is remarkably simple. Unlike SQL, where you'd need to write an explicit left outer join, VFL uses the dot notation, making the syntax both intuitive and concise. Let's break it down with an example. Imagine we want to calculate the number of minority applicants for non-evergreen requisitions. Whether an applicant is a minority can be determined by examining their candidate record using the forward reference applicant.candidate.isMinority. Whether a requisition is evergreen or not can be determined via the forward reference applicant.requisition.isEvergreen. And that's it. We have our metric. Here's a tip. Since the metric starts with onApplicant, the context is already set to applicant, allowing us to simplify the syntax by dropping the applicant prefix from the chain of references. This streamlined approach keeps the code cleaner and easier to read while achieving the same functionality. One of the most powerful features of VFL is its ability to jump through multiple forward references, enabling deeper exploration of relationships. For example, let's expand the previous query to calculate the number of minority applicants for non-evergreen requisitions managed by a minority hiring manager. To do this, we'll make two jumps. First, from applicant to requisition, then from requisition to hiring manager. While VFL allows jumping through multiple layers of forward references, each additional jump adds computational complexity. For instance, traversing two layers as shown above is reasonable, but jumping through many layers could significantly increase the time and resources needed to calculate the metric. As a best practice, try to limit the depth of your reference chains to ensure metrics are both efficient and performant. Now that we've explored forward references, let's delve into how we can use reverse references in VFL to unlock even more analytical power. In all our examples so far, metrics have been centered around aggregating a single analytic object. However, reverse references take us from one record to many records, adding a layer of complexity. To handle this, we use a nested query to calculate results across multiple records and then integrate those results into the main calculation. Let's say we want to calculate the total number of applications received for open requisitions at the end of the period. We can start by building the base query to filter for open requisitions. But how do we calculate the number of applicants for each requisition? This is where a nested query comes in. The via keyword specifies the reference to be used, in this case, the requisition reference. The result of the nested query is stored in a temporary property, number of applicants, which can then be used in the outer query. The syntax for nested queries is almost identical to that of outer queries, with a few key differences. Via syntax indicates the reference to use for traversing. However, note that there are two scenarios where the via reference syntax can be skipped. When referencing the same subject using its default key attribute, similar to SQL self-join, via is unnecessary. Also, when referencing events directly tied to the subject, VFL automatically selects the implicit reference. Time handling of nested queries is more restricted than the outer queries. Nested queries only have access to the instant effective date of the outer query, not the interval. So functions like occurred in interval cannot be used, but alternatives like occurred in period of instant are valid. Certain time handling functions, such as last known state by filter in, cannot be used in nested queries. For detailed documentation on each time handling function and its compatibility with nested queries, please refer to the VFL reference guide. Here's a tip. The intermediate property number of applicants can either be defined inline, as shown in our example, or set as a calculated property on the requisition to be referenced here. Both approaches yield the same result, but your choice depends on whether you anticipate needing that calculated property for other metrics or want it displayed as part of each requisition's detail view. Similar to chaining forward references, VFL allows chaining multiple reverse references, enabling even deeper insights. For example, to calculate time to fill for requisitions, we first go through one reverse reference from requisition to applicant. And then for each applicant of that requisition, we go through another reverse reference and jump to the hire event and look at all the hire events of that applicant. As we can see, reverse references are computationally heavier than forward references because they traverse multiple records. The more jumps you include, the more complex and slower the computation becomes. As a best practice, keep queries efficient by avoiding excessive layers of reverse references. Here's the final tip. If your nested query uses a count aggregation and all you need to check is whether the result exceeds a certain value, for example, if the count is greater than 0 or 1, consider using the exist aggregation instead. Unlike count, exist short-circuits the process, returning as soon as enough matches are found. This approach significantly improves performance, especially when working with a large number of records, as it avoids processing unnecessary data. Congratulations! By mastering time handlings, analytic object transformations, forward and reverse references, and nested queries, you've unlocked incredible potential with VFL. With these tools, you're ready to create metrics that transform raw data into powerful insights. Keep exploring, keep creating, and get ready to uncover even greater possibilities.